His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gora Hare Ki, Shri Shri Nitai Sachi Sutta Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Shri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava Ki, Shri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava Ki, Shri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyas Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. There's some echo. If we just remove that, please. Thank you. So devotees, today, of course, is the most wonderful, most extremely super auspicious, and just most glorious day, occasion, the appearance day of Lord Sri Krishna. You can turn off the echo if you can. I mean, if you can't, we'll live with it. But yeah. Yes, so devotees, what a wonderful occasion. Absolutely wonderful. It is just the unlimited mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, that this occasion is here and that we have the opportunity to celebrate it. He has given us some sort of awareness of who he is, and therefore we're able to celebrate the occasion. What we will do is we will read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 1, the advent of Lord Krishna, introduction. So we'll read from there, and this is all sort of the build-up to the actual appearance of the Lord. And tonight, late tonight, 11-ish or so, we will continue and actually read those verses describing the actual appearance of the Lord as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, so we'll read the verses. We will read Srimad Bhagavatam. And as we go, we'll make a few comments here and there, but mainly we'll focus on the presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Yes, so we will begin with verse 17 of the first chapter of the 10th canto. The previous 16 verses, they sort of glorifying how wonderful the description is and how we want to hear it, but this, you'll probably recognize if you've read Krishna book, this is how Prabhupada begins the Krishna book, more or less. Right, so 10th canto, chapter 1, verse 17. Bhumir driptan ripa vyaja Daityanika Shatayutai Akranta Buri Bharena Brahmanam Sharanam Yayo. Translation. I think it's okay now. Yeah. Translation. Once, when Mother Earth was overburdened by hundreds of thousands of military phalanxes, of various conceited demons dressed like kings, she approached Lord Brahma for relief. Just an interesting little point. Mother Earth was overburdened by all these soldiers who are marching up and down. Mother Earth feels what's going on her surface, because the surface of the Earth planet, that is the skin and the top of her body. And we all know what it feels like if the body gets cut or some damage takes place. We feel it. We feel it very much. And so does Mother Earth. This should not be underestimated, actually. Even one time in Bhaktivedanta Manor, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada that when we walk on the grass, aren't we walking on the heads of the blades of grass like that? And Prabhupada answered, yes. And devotee continued, so doesn't it hurt the grass when we walk on the grass? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes. And then Srila Prabhupada said, so we should not walk on grass unless we are walking for Krishna. If you're walking for Krishna in his service in some genuine way, then it's okay. Right? It's beneficial even for the grass. But otherwise, it's a form of abuse. That's just for the very humble blades of grass. And for the planet, it's like that. And it's described that when Lord Krishna would take out the cows, particularly the cows would be walking in front some of the time. And cows are big and heavy, and they have these hoofs which are hard and sharp even. And it would hurt the surface of the earth. But when Lord Krishna would walk behind his lotus feet on the ground where those cows had been walking, that would soothe the planet. So yes, these, at least particularly in the Krishna book as such, Srila Prabhupada talks about these soldiers, hundreds of thousands of phalanxes, not just hundreds of thousands of soldiers, but hundreds of thousands of groups of soldiers, battalions and armies and whatever, divisions of soldiers. Yes, so they were marching. They were, you could say, showing off who are the toughest soldiers. And so they would walk up and down and stamp on the earth. And it would hurt planet Earth. So therefore, the verse says, Mother Earth was overburdened. So therefore she approached Lord Brahma for relief. Mother Earth assumed the form of a cow, very much distressed, with tears in her eyes. She appeared before Lord Brahma and told him about her misfortune. Thereafter, having heard of the distress of Mother Earth, Lord Brahma, with Mother Earth, Lord Shiva and all the other demigods, approached the shore of the ocean of milk. After reaching the shore of the ocean of milk, the demigods worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Master of the whole universe, the Supreme God of all gods, who provides for everyone and diminishes everyone's suffering. With great attention, they worship Lord Vishnu, who lies on the ocean of milk. by reciting the Vedic mantras known as the Purusha Sukta. Purusha Sukta is a particular collection of verses, or like a specific prayer, you could say, a number of verses glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these verses, the Purusha Sukta, the prayer itself, it is chanted quite frequently at times of different Vedic ceremonies, etc. Yes, so they chant it. They're like very standard prayers, famous prayers, very well known, very prominent, and very profound and meaningful. So continuing on, while in trance, Lord Brahma heard the words of Lord Vishnu vibrating in the sky. Only Lord Brahma heard. Yeah. Generally it's described that there was sort of a transmission into his heart. But anyway, here it says that the words, Lord Vishnu's words were vibrated in the sky, and Lord Brahma heard them there. And then thus he told the demigods, O demigods, hear from me the order of Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the Supreme Person, and execute it attentively without delay. It's an interesting point. They're approaching Kshirodakshai Vishnu, because Kshirodakshai Vishnu, he's within the universe. He has a particularly important role. Garbhodakshai Vishnu is also within the universe. Karanadakshai Vishnu or Mahavishnu is outside. Yes, but now Garbhodakshai Vishnu is within the universe, but he's just down the bottom there. And just in that one form. I mean, actually, Kshirodakshai Vishnu is expanded from Garbhodakshai Vishnu, but Garbhodakshai Vishnu himself is just there in one form. But Kshirodakshai Vishnu, what a person! He is within every living entity's heart. He is within our hearts, devotees. All of us sitting here now, I don't know, 30 or something or other of us here. And Kshirodakshai Vishnu himself is present with us in our hearts, watching us. So we must be on our best behavior. But all the time we must be, because he's always within our hearts. But not only that, devotees, he is within every atom. Adantara Paramanu Chayantara Stam, Lord Brahma says, Brahma Samhita, how the Supreme Lord, means Kshirodakshai Vishnu, is within every atom. What can you say? What sort of level of control of the situation does he have, being in every atom? The government, they try to control, but what control do they have is not a minute, the tiniest minute fraction of that sort of control, like Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So Lord Brahma heard, but the demigods didn't hear. Therefore now he's relating what Lord Vishnu said. Lord Brahma informed the demigods, before we submitted our petition to the Lord, he was already aware of the distress on earth. Of course, Krishna is always aware. He's more aware of us than we are aware of us. Yes. So he knows what's going on in just the most extreme detail. So he was already aware of the distress on earth. Consequently, for as long as the Lord moves on earth, in other words, it's the first thing he said about the Lord coming, but he's saying it. The Lord is going to come. For as long as the Lord moves on earth to diminish its burden by his own potency in the form of time, all of you demigods should appear through plenary portions as sons and grandsons in the family of the Yadus. So demigods to appear in at least what is said here, like expanded forms, plenary portions in the Yadu dynasty. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has full potency, will personally appear as the son of Vasudeva. And we should note that Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, and in that capacity, Krishna is known as Vasudeva. I noticed in our drama yesterday in Midrand, Krishna's father was being addressed, it seemed, as Vasudeva, long A, but no, it's Vasudeva, short A. But Krishna being the son of Vasudeva, it's now takes the form of Vasudeva. So, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has full potency, will personally appear as the son of Vasudeva. Therefore, all the wives of the demigods should also appear in order to satisfy him. Yes, the foremost manifestation of Krishna is Sankarshan, who is known as Ananta. He is the origin of all incarnations within this material world. Previous to the appearance of Lord Krishna, this original Sankarshan will appear as Baladev, just to please the Supreme Lord Krishna in his transcendental pastimes. Yes, of course, exactly a week ago we celebrated the appearance of Lord Baladev, Lord Balaram. And what is pointed out here is that before Krishna appears, which is going to be on this day back then, but before that, the original Sankarshan will appear as Baladev just to please Krishna. And if you remember, during the different classes and things we had over those days building up to the appearance of Lord Balaram, the point was made that Lord Balaram is in the mood of a devotee. He's in the mood of pleasing Krishna. As we mentioned, some of you I'm sure would have been present, Srila Jiva Goswami says that if you ask Krishna, who is God? Krishna points to himself and says, me. And if you ask Lord Balaram, who is God? Balaram says, Krishna. He can say, me also. Of course he can, but he doesn't. Who is God? Krishna. Then if you ask Lord Balaram, well, who are you then? Balaram says, I'm a devotee of Krishna. So he appeared just shortly before, as the verse says, just to please Lord Krishna in his transcendental pastimes. Probably you know he entered the womb of Devaki and was there for a while. Although he is, in terms of the transcendental relationships, He is the son of Rohini. He's not the son of Devaki, really. But now he entered initially the womb of Devaki. And as it is explained in a little, anyway, as is explained, he did that. He appeared in the womb of Devaki just to check if everything was okay there in the womb, that Krishna would be comfortable and happy, everything was working, the plumbing system and whatever else was working. So Krishna would be okay, because he's a devotee. He does things like that. He'll go ahead of Krishna's going somewhere. Balaram, sometimes at least, he'll go ahead to check where Krishna's going to make sure everything is all right, up to standard. Not always, but he does. Yes. So, Prabhupada, let's just read what Prabhupada says. Short purport. Sri Baladeva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. He is equal in supremacy to the Supreme Godhead. Yet, wherever Krishna appears, Sri Baladeva appears as his brother, sometimes elder and sometimes younger. When Krishna appears, all his plenary expansions and other incarnations appear with him. This is elaborately explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This time, Baladev would appear before Krishna as Krishna's elder brother. The potency of the Lord, known as Vishnu Maya, who's as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will also appear with Lord Krishna. This potency, acting in different capacities, captivates all the worlds, both material and spiritual. At the request of her master, she will appear with her different potencies in order to execute the work of the Lord. Yes. So then, Shukadev Goswami continued, after thus advising the demigods and pacifying Mother Earth, the very powerful Lord Brahma, who is the master of all other Prajapatis, and is therefore known as Prajapati Pati, returned to his own abode, Brahma Loka. Yes, okay, so now that's like an introduction. Now we're going to get into into the heart of the story. So, formerly, Shurdasena, the chief of the Yadu dynasty, had gone to live in the city of Mathura. There he enjoyed the places known as Mathura and Shurdasena. Interesting. Right. Since that time, the city of Mathura had been the capital of all the kings of the Yadu dynasty. The city and district of Mathura are very intimately connected with Krishna, for Krishna lives there eternally. And that means he's living there right now. So now, here we go. Some time ago, Vasudev, who belonged to the demigod family or to the Shura dynasty, married Devaki. After the marriage, he mounted his chariot to return home with his newly married wife. Kamsa, the son of King Ugrasena, in order to please his sister Devaki on the occasion of her marriage, took charge of the reins of the horses and became the chariot driver. he was surrounded by hundreds of golden chariots. Just an interesting point. Kamsa is described as the sister, Devaki is described as the sister of Kamsa. She is one of his cousin sisters, actually. Not, born of the same parents in, the sort of current day normal idea in the Western world. But the thing is, the relationships were so close that cousin brothers, cousin sisters were considered just brothers and sisters. And no, real distinction was made between them and your actual biological brothers and sisters. Yeah. So there he is now, driving the chariot back to the home of Vasudeva. Yeah. So, then there's a description, Devaki's father had given a big dowry. That's like, for a woman, traditionally at least, it's like the inheritance, basically. Although it's a pre-inheritance. Inheritance generally means when the father or when the parents pass away. But the daughter traditionally would be given a dowry just when she's married, while the parents are still living. So he gave her 400 elephants. Hare Krishna. And I've been to a few places. Once I went to Guruvayur, where they keep elephants. And someone there told us that it costs to maintain one elephant for a year. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. It might even be 100,000, or it might even be more. But it's really expensive. It's expensive to keep cows. It's even expensive to keep a dog. But to keep elephants, it's extremely expensive. Because they get sick, they eat, they really eat. They really eat. So he gave her 400 elephants. Each one was nicely, and they were all decorated with golden garlands. Doesn't mean, gold-plated or just some artificial manufactured gold paint, something like that. It means actual garlands made of gold. He also gave 10,000 horses, 1,800 chariots, and 200 very beautiful young maid servants, fully decorated with ornaments. So Prabhupada comments, the system of giving a dowry to one's daughter has existed in Vedic civilization for a very long time. Even today, following the same system, a father who has money will give his daughter an opulent dowry. The daughter would never inherit the property of the father. Therefore, the affectionate father, during the marriage of his daughter, would give her as much as possible. And it's still going on in India. But it's not, oftentimes at least, it's not such a nice thing. Sometimes you read in the newspapers there how the parents of the groom, the husband, they negotiate how much dowry will be given, and they try and push the wife before the wife-to-be's parents, you must give more. And sometimes they don't give enough. And sometimes, it becomes violent. Yeah, really. So I saw once, I was walking through the streets of Vrindavan, I think it's still there, that someone wrote on a wall in paint, in Hindi, it's like, what? Dowry, narak hai. Is that correct? Dowry is hell. Yeah. Okay, but in those days, particularly if you had enough money, then, giving all these things, it's just immense wealth. So, O beloved son, Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadev Goswami speaking, addressing Parikshit as his son. O beloved son, Maharaj Parikshit, when the bride and bridegroom were ready to start, conch shells, bugles, drums, and kettle drums all vibrated in concert for their auspicious departure. While Kamsa, controlling the reins of the horses, was driving the chariot along the way, an unembodied voice addressed him, "You foolish rascal! The 8th child of the woman you're carrying will kill you!" I got inspiration from Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu when he was telling his pastimes the other night. Wow, he was getting into it. Yes, I'm going to get into it. Yes, wow, what a thing. Kamsa. Yeah, and Kamsa is a hard man. Wow. Ruthless in the extreme. Kamsa was a condemned personality in the Bhoja dynasty because he was envious and sinful. Therefore, upon hearing this omen from the sky, he caught hold of his sister's hair with his left hand and took up his sword with his right hand to sever her head from her body. Just right there on the chariot as they're going home immediately after the wedding. This is just bizarre. The whole situation is bizarre. So, but now, wanting to pacify Kamsa, who was so cruel and envious that he was shamelessly ready to kill his sister, the great soul Vasudeva, who was to be the father of Krishna, spoke to him in the following words. Yes, so Prabhupada in the purport, just very, very short purport, Prabhupada makes the point that in the verse, he draws our attention to the fact that Vasudeva is referred to in the verse as Mahabhaga, which is, literally means greatly fortunate or greatly opulent even. Prabhupada translates as greatly fortunate or the great soul Vasudeva. Very upright and sober personality, Prabhupada says. And it's interesting, Vasudeva, in this extremely drastic and dangerous situation, which is just, unexpectedly, how often do you hear omens from the sky? This is not something which happens much at all. But now it's happened, and Kamsa's reacting. But Vasudeva keeps a cool head. Prabhupada says Vasudeva remains sober and unagitated. and in a peaceful attitude, he began to address Kamsa by putting forward reasonable arguments. Vasudeva was a great personality because he knew how to pacify a cruel person and how to forgive even the bitterest enemy. Quite similar to Sanatana Goswami. He was just expert at dealing with people in even drastic situations. And one who is fortunate, Prabhupada says, is never caught, even by tigers or snakes. You know, Vasudeva is a Kshatriya. He's not a Brahmin. Brahmins, qualified Brahmins, you might well expect under such circumstances, they would also remain very calm and be able to address the people involved very intelligently and nicely and convincingly, and no panic. But Vasudeva is also a Kshatriya, but there are different types of Kshatriyas. He's not the warrior type. If he was the warrior type, I don't know if he was wearing a sword, carrying a sword. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But if he was one of the warrior types, he would, and not one of the sort of like ministerial, highly intelligent, diplomatic types, he wouldn't have been able to address Kamsa in a, sober and peaceful way. He wouldn't have been able to do it. That Kshatriya nature, is just is passionate. Sort of very radical nature. So he would have pulled out a sword to protect Devaki, but the thing is, because Kamsa is he's like a super Kshatriya, a super demon Kshatriya. It would have been the certain death of Vasudeva. Because he couldn't, he wouldn't be frightened to confront Kamsa, with a sword and let's fight. He wouldn't have been frightened. But he would know that it's sure death because Kamsa's just so much more powerful. Yes. Right, so then anyway, what happens is Vasudeva negotiates with Kamsa, and in such expert ways. It's a 2-stage negotiation. First stage, he presents so many things, we'll read some of them, or maybe all of them, some or all. But Kamsa does not accept. So then he sort of changes his approach a bit, Vasudeva, and then Kamsa accepts, and he doesn't kill Devaki. So Vasudeva said, "My dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the pride of your family. The Bhoja dynasty and great heroes praise your qualities. How could such a qualified person as you kill a woman, your own sister, especially on the occasion of her marriage?" Vasudeva is speaking very diplomatically. Actually, he knows that Kamsa is not such a qualified person. He's just a big rogue, actually. But now he's using diplomacy. They say, there's a saying, politics means the art of being polite. To country leaders, the countries are practically at war with each other, but the presidents or prime ministers meet, and when they walk up to each other to meet, they smile. They may even embrace, shake hands. Oh, I'm so happy to see you, you rotten ... But no. Yeah. That's politics, being polite. They actually think that each other is just completely out of it. But they're diplomatic. They're very nice. Yes, so this is what Vasudeva does. Oh, great hero! So now he tries to preach. One who takes birth is sure to die, for death is born with the body. One may die today or after hundreds of years, but death is sure for every living entity. When the present body turns to dust and is again reduced to 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the proprietor of the body, the living being, automatically receives another body of material elements, according to his fruit of activities. When the next body is obtained, he gives up the present body. So like this, Vasudeva makes all these very good points, philosophical, intellectual points, very thoughtful points, because he's that sort of person. Just as a person traveling on the road rests one foot on the ground and then lifts the other, or as a worm on a vegetable transfers itself to one leaf and then gives up the previous one, the conditioned soul takes shelter of another body and then gives up the one he had before. In other words, the next body is already established what it's going to be before the person leaves the body they're currently in. Yes, so basically he continues like that, making all these very important, profound philosophical statements, hoping that Kamsa will just have the intelligence and the type of intelligence that he'll be able to accept it and think, right, you're right. Yes. So he's telling Kamsa, don't worry. The prospect of death is there, but it's there anyway. So therefore, since envious, impious activities cause a body in which one suffers in the next life, why should one act impiously? Considering one's welfare, one should not envy anyone, for an envious person must always fear harm from his enemies, either in this life or in the next. You may be aware, you may have read in the 9th canto, Lord Narayan is speaking with Devasa Muni, who has been chased by the Sudarshan Chakra after offending Maharaja Ambarish. And the Lord, it's almost like the last instruction he gives. There's a series of maybe 10 verses or so where he's instructing Devasa, and maybe the last or practically the last verse is he says that if a person, well, let me just tell you what the actual verse is, because it's just really a really good one. Let me just see here. Okay, it's verse 69 of chapter 4. and it's not the last verse, but it's one of the last verses. The Lord instructs to Durvasa, "O Brahman, let me now advise you for your own protection. Please hear from me. By offending Maharaj Ambarish, you have acted with self-envy." You were envious of Maharaj Ambarish and you thought you were, chastising him and so on. But actually you acted with envy of yourself. Therefore you should go to him immediately without a moment's delay. One's so-called prowess, when employed against the devotee, certainly harms him who employs it. Thus it is the subject, not the object, who is harmed. Do you get the idea? The grammar, the subject and not the object. But the angry person who wants to punish the other person, that angry person is harmed, not the person he's trying to harm. This is really a very important point, actually, just in general, in Krishna consciousness. So anyway, just to continue here for a bit, let's just see. Just bear with me. Yes. Right. Okay. So as your younger sister, this poor girl Devaki is like your own daughter, because the older brother is the representative of the father, and Kamsa is the older brother of Devaki, cousin brother, but by those standards, the older brother. So Devaki is like your own daughter and deserves to be affectionately maintained. You are merciful. Haribol. This is Vasudeva being diplomatic. Because Kamsa is not merciful. If anything, he's completely merciless. The only person he's merciful to is himself. So you are merciful, and therefore you should not kill her. Indeed, she deserves your affection. So, but, was verse 46, Shukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the Kuru dynasty, Kamsa was fiercely cruel and was actually a follower of the Rakshasas. Therefore he could be neither pacified nor terrified by the good instructions given by Vasudeva. He did not care about the results of sinful activities, either in this life or in the next. So he's really, really a demoniac person. When Vasudeva saw that Kamsa was determined to kill his sister Devaki, he thought to himself very deeply and very quickly. Considering the imminent danger of death, he thought of another plan to stop Kamsa. Yes. Right, okay. So next verse is 48, and it's interesting. As long as he has intelligence and bodily strength, an intelligent person must try to avoid death. Let me read that again. Try and just take this in. As long as a person has intelligence and bodily strength, an intelligent person must try to avoid death. You get it? This is the duty of every embodied person. But if death cannot be avoided, in spite of one's endeavors. A person facing death commits no offense. In other words, if you're facing death and you don't try to avoid it, you could avoid it, but you don't try to avoid it, it's an offense. Let's just read Prabhupada's purport. It is natural for a person facing untimely death to try his best to save himself. This is one's duty. Although death is sure, everyone should try to avoid it and not meet death without opposition, because every living soul is by nature eternal. Because death is a punishment imposed in the condemned life of material existence, the Vedic culture is based on avoiding death. Chatvadeha Punar Janma 90. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 9. Everyone should try to avoid death and rebirth by cultivating spiritual life, and should not submit to death without struggling to survive. One who is not trying to stop death is not an intelligent being. Because Devaki was face to face with imminent death, it was Vasudev's duty to save her, as he was trying his best to do. He therefore considered another way to approach Kamsa, so that Devaki would be saved. So a different approach. Yes. So Vasudeva thinks, by delivering all my sons to Kamsa, who is death personified, I shall save the life of Devaki. Because Kamsa will die before my sons take birth, or perhaps Kamsa will die. Perhaps Kamsa will die before my sons take birth. Or, since he's already destined to die at the hands of my son, one of my sons may kill him. For the time being, let me promise to hand over my sons, so that Kamsa will give up this immediate threat. And if in due course of time Kamsa dies, I shall have nothing to fear. So this is diplomacy. Now, if you can't make a conclusive sort of conclusion or whatever, just situation in a problematic situation, at least do something so you can carry on for the time being and, see how things develop, and then you may be able to make like a fuller conclusion. So, yes, when a fire for some unseen reason leaps over one piece of wood and sets fire to the next, the reason is destiny. Similarly, when a living being accepts one kind of body and leaves aside another, there is no other reason than unseen destiny. So then Vasudeva appeals to Kamsa in those terms. It's not such a sort of high-level approach, philosophical and so on. It's just, appealing to sort of basic instincts and emotions. So Vasudeva is full of anxiety, actually. But in order to please the cruel, shameless, and sinful Kamsa, he externally smiled and spoke to him as follows. Can you imagine smiling in such a situation? Like, life is good. When life is not good at all. So he explains to him like that, diplomatically. Vasudeva said, O best of the sober, note the diplomacy, you have nothing to fear from your sister Devaki because of what you've heard from the unseen. Therefore I promise that when she gives birth to the sons, from whom your fear has arisen, I shall deliver them all unto your hands. So Shukadev Goswami says, Kamsa agreed to the logical arguments of Vasudeva. And having full faith in Vasudev's words, he refrained from killing his sister. Vasudeva, being pleased with Kamsa, pacified him further and then entered his own house. So then, every year from that time on, Devaki gave birth to a child. So she gave birth to 8 sons and a daughter named Subhadra. Hare Krishna. Sometimes devotees ask, who's the mother of Subhadra? Well, there you have it. Devaki is. But now this is also jumping ahead a bit further. Yeah. So Vasudeva, he was something like Yudhisthira. And, in those days, there were people like this, extremely honest, just extremely honest. Even, at the risk of death, they wouldn't lie. So Vasudeva was very much disturbed by fear of becoming a liar, by breaking his promise. Thus, with great pain, he delivered his firstborn son, named Kirtiman, into the hands of Kamsa. Right, and anyway, well, let me read the next verse. What is it, 58? It's a really good verse. What is painful for saintly persons who strictly adhere to the truth? What is painful for them? How could there not be independence for pure devotees who know the Supreme Lord as the substance? What deeds are forbidden for persons of the lowest character? And what cannot be given up for the sake of Lord Krishna by those who have fully surrendered at his lotus feet? That's quite something, isn't it? For really saintly people, strictly adhere to the truth. There's nothing painful. And the pure devotees, they're independent from the material nature. But for the people of the lowest character, including Kamsa, what activities are forbidden? Of course, many activities are forbidden, in terms of what's stated in Scripture. But as far as they're concerned, nothing's forbidden. Nothing's forbidden. Kill your own parents. No problem. Good. Fine. Let's just do it. Very positive, good activity. What to speak of, should I do such an outrageous thing or not? Yeah, and for the devotees, what are they not able to give up for Krishna? They can give up anything. They can give up their lives. So anyway, it goes on, and Kamsa initially, we just read, Vasudeva goes with the first child to Kamsa here. I said I'd hand over the children, so here's the first one. Here, take him. Devotees, unless you're looking at it on your device, tell me, what was the name of that first son? Kirtiman. We just read it, so hopefully you're listening. So he went, and Kamsa told him, no, look, it's okay. It's only the 8th child, not the first child, who is, a danger for me. So you take your first child back. It's all right. But then, you know what happened? A very remarkable thing happened, is that, well, Narada Muni, would you believe, Narada Muni came and had a meeting with Kamsa and said, you know what, Lord Vishnu, the people upstairs, those people, they've made a plan to kill you. Yeah. And so now they're taking birth. They're taking birth on the planet. And as little children, but in due course, you're going to be killed, and all your followers and people. So Narada told Kamsa that, and Kamsa, with the encouragement of his sort of like-minded ministers, decided, well, I better just kill all the children, not just this one, but all the children who've taken birth recently. Because, who knows who amongst them may be one of these demigods who's come as part of the program to kill me and my associates. Yes. So like this. So what Kamsa did, he arrested Devaki and Vasudeva. And there's a whole thing going on of killing little children. And then each child that was born, he killed. So, yeah, what an extremely drastic situation. So Vasudeva and Devaki are locked up, and then, well, Balaram is the seventh son, but he's transferred, looks like a miscarriage, but it's sort of something else, transferred to the womb of Rohini, which is sort of where he belongs. Krishna enters the womb of Devaki. Kamsa is waiting for Krishna to be born, then he's going to kill him. Yes, so, you know the story, that Krishna's born, or not born, but Krishna appears. He just steps out, fully dressed, with jewelry and fully grown jewelry and etc. But then he reduces himself to the size of a little child. But he wanted Vasudeva and Devaki to know that, look, see, I am the Supreme Lord, by appearing in that full manifestation. Then Vasudeva took him across. The jail where they were locked up just opened up. All the guards were asleep. Took him across. The Yamuna, the waters of the Yamuna parted. So he just walked across. Exchanged the child for the child of Yashoda, a female child. And actually, Yashoda had given birth to a male and a female child. And Vasudeva took over Krishna, his Krishna. That Krishna merged into the body of Yashoda's Krishna. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains. Then he took back the female child. Everyone's still asleep. The prisoner's still wide open. He goes in, and then everyone wakes up, and the child cries, And they understand, everyone understands, the 8th child has been born. And even though it's a female child, Kamsa still tries to kill the child by picking her up and hurling her on the stone floor, but she manifests as Yoga Maya or Maya Devi and tells him, Kamsa, you fool! The 8th child, 8th son of Devaki has already been born elsewhere. Ha ha ha. Anyway, words to that effect. Yes. And so what happens after that? Wow, shoo. Tune in tonight. Down in the tent, I guess. Oh, here is it. Okay, anyway, tune in tonight and find out what happened. Whoa. It's really quite something. Hare Krishna. Sri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava ke. Sri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava ke. Sri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava ke. Go Premanande. So now,